This special episode of the Red and White Podcast is brought to you by Nick Overcash from Prime Lending. Nick is a diehard Wolfpack fan, and he can help you out with all your mortgage, purchasing, refinancing, construction loans, any of your financing needs. Just a personal story. I had a buddy of mine at a tailgate, and he was talking about mortgages and whatnot. And the default answer, and I've heard this a few times just from having conversations with people and friends, is, hey, I just go to my bank and get a loan for a house. And that's not always the best case for you. You should talk to a broker. You should talk to various other lenders and see. You can almost always get a better rate and better closing costs. Traditional banks are traditional in that sense. So call Nick, 919-854-4457, or go to nickovercash.com. Mention the podcast and get $500 off your closing costs. You can't be beat. And again, big fan of Nick, so thanks for sponsoring the podcast. So this week we have a special episode. Well, Dustin and I will still record later on in the week, previewing Notre Dame a little bit, but WolfpackPatrol on Twitter has been hitting us up to get on the mic again, and I had to say the number of requests from his followers and friends has been overwhelming that we had to give in. So apparently he's got a lot to say, and I'm glad to have him. All right, folks. So our buddy, your favorite Twitter follower, Twitter fan, Twitter tweeter, I don't know what I'm talking about. Follow him at WolfpackPatrol on Twitter. Thanks for joining us. It's been too long, my friend. How are you? I'm doing well. Now I've got to ask, lately, each day you've woken up and posted a slight dig at the NCAA. What's that all about? Did they do something recently to get under your skin?
Call it a dig. I mean, normal people tweet at the NCAA, so it's not really a dig. But I guess it's got to the point where, for me, I'm tired of playing by the rules all the time and being left behind. And with the latest ruling that they've had, especially if you go back to the ruling and then, 30 minutes later, they said Braxton was, ruled ineligible to play this year for the basketball team. He went to class. So I just feel like every morning I should start everybody's day off with a very happy tweet towards the NCAA, just letting them know that they are fraud. It's pretty simple.
I like it. I appreciate it, and I'm sure other people out there do as well. They've basically neutered themselves of all power. It's talked about.
Absolutely. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I told him, I said, okay, what we have here is a court case. We have a serial killer. He's gone out and killed people. And then you've got a normal person that does the same thing. Well, the jury's the NCAA, and they acquit the serial killer because they say normal people kill people. I mean, it makes no sense. You set up an entire fraud class schedule so that your athletes could stay eligible. The NCAA tells kids in high school they can't go to school because of their grades. But yet when you get to college, you can just take no-show classes and you're fine. It doesn't equate in my world. But then again, I'm not the brightest apple in the bunch.
Yeah, but everybody's doing it. Isn't that okay?
Everybody's doing it. I guess it's okay. The problem is, what's the NCAA have now? They've set the precedent, obviously. So if school X, Y, or Z decides to have a major in, how to stare at a wall for 20 minutes, are they going to stop them? They can't. So it's a joke. I mean, when I knew what was coming, because we're talking about the fraud that is the NCAA. But still, you'd hope at some point that Mark Emmert would quit worrying about his millions of dollars in salary, and the higher-ups would actually care about the kids in the future. But I guess in the end, it's always about the money.
It's funny. My dad and my brother went to the Final Four this year, and they're both state fans. But anyway, they went to the Final Four, and I was talking to my dad about this Carolina stuff, recently over dinner, and he said, I was at the Final Four, and everybody there is wearing a Carolina shirt. Everybody there knows the Carolina brand. I mean, it comes down to it's 100% about money, and they've they showed that. I think they loud and clear
You're
they
right,
showed that
and
to everybody.
it's the Carolina brand, and as long as Walmart's in business, they'll have a brand. Because let's face it, you go up to 99 out of 100 Carolina fans. Half of them don't even know where they play at. They're a Carolina fan because their daddy told them to be, because they went to Walmart. Walmart had a Carolina shirt on clearance for $1.58. You know, I mean, let's face it, the shirt at Walmart's worth more than a degree at that university, if that's what you want to call it. You know, and look, I don't hide my hatred for Carolina. I can't stand them. I don't like anything about them. I don't like the fans. I don't like anything. But I didn't think I could despise anything any more than Carolina, and I found that I can, and it's Mark Emmert and the NCAA. I mean, it's a joke.
It really is. It's going to be funny how they're going to ever enforce academic standing for any player
I agree. And,
moving forward.
We're not going to do it at state. I mean, let's face it. Randy Woodson's not going to do it. Debbie Al's not going to allow it. But if I was the chancellor at NC State, I would have had, as soon as that ruling came down, I'd have had a doctorate in wall staring, a doctorate in grass cutting, and a doctorate in hat flipping set up overnight. And every single athlete in that school would have been majoring in that. And I'd have looked at the NCAA and said, what are you going to do? You can't do a thing because you just set the precedence. You know, it's sad. I hate it for what I hate it for more than anything is the athletes. Because let's face it, you know as well as I do, how many athletes are actually going pro after college? There's not many. And they've still got 40 years to work. But they've got a useless degree and still don't know what to do, all in the name of money, a brand, and athletes. It's just not fair to them in my world.
Yeah, it's not. And I can't pretend to speak to that. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm as guilty as the next guy. But it is a big business, and I think this might be one step closer to them treating it.
It's not amateurism anymore. It's not. You don't go to it. You used to go to a college game, and you were going to an amateur sport. Well, it's not like that anymore. So if this is the way it's going to be, then, in my opinion, you pay the kids in college just like you pay the professionals on Sunday. Because that's what it's come down to. It's not about education anymore. It's about money.
Yeah, it's 100% about money. Yeah, it's 100% about money. And I think that's the problem. It's twofold, right? I mean, you want to pay the football players, you want to pay the basketball players, but then what about everybody else that doesn't make any money? And sorry, play a different sport. You know, I mean, I don't think it's a sexist thing if you don't pay them, but that's how it comes across. And you know, if it's proportional to the revenue they generate, then do that.
I agree with you, but you've got to do something because the NCAA, with their ruling, just said, I mean, when you have a school that admitted it was academic fraud, they admitted the classes were fraud. For the NCAA to come back and say, well, we know it helped them and we know it gave them an advantage and blah, 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 but we can't prove that it was fraud. Well, obviously, the people in the NCAA got their degree from Carolina because they can't read. Carolina said it's fraud. That Bubba Cunningham, and they love to pick on us about being a bunch of rednecks. Your AD's name is Bubba. So, you know, come on. But he admitted it was academic fraud. So, obviously, the NCAA has shown they don't care. Do what you want to do as long as Mark Emmert gets his 12, 14 million and the other high-ups get their millions, they don't care. So if that's the way it's going to be, at least everybody knows what the line is now. So now it's up to each individual school to decide, well, where do we want to go with this?
I think what it comes down to, at least for me, is their reasoning was awful. I mean, it's just, they flat out said, well, they were cheating and we know it helped them, but everybody else, you know, it helped the rest of the students as well. Like, that's such a bullshit answer. And, you know, And I think that's the problem that really rubs everybody the wrong way. It's such a faux
Mm-hmm.
cover up for what the actual reason. And the actual reason is
Exactly.
money. That's what it comes
It's
down
all
to. It's
about the
money.
money.
So
You know, it's sad.
yeah,
It's sad, but it
and
is.
it is the convenient timing, I would say, of the Braxton Beverly news. I mean, it's just pour
Right.
salt on the wound. Like everybody made the joke that Carolina got away with it, so State's going to get in trouble. And then they keep a guy from playing this year because he
Right.
went to summer class.
Well,
Like, come
here's
on,
my
man!
thing.
It doesn't
My
line up
world,
in my
and
book.
you know me, I'm a pretty blunt guy. If I'm NC State, Braxton Beverly's my starting point guard the first game of the season. And I look at the NCAA and I say, okay, do something. I dare you. Because they've
Yeah,
proven that they can.
right.
So instead, my thing is, and I guess what makes me so mad is too many people are willing to lay down at the feet of the NCAA just to protect their money. Well, when's it going to get to a point where you stand up for something and it's more about the whole than it is the you? That's my argument, and I guess that's why I get on Twitter and I say it all the time. I know I'm alone in this fight, but I don't mind. I'll be alone. But somebody's got to say something.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not alone. I mean, there's people out there that are still pressing them on it. I just the expectation is nothing. It's nothing's going to come of it, right? They don't care. They've shown they don't care.
I don't care if they say anything about me tweeting either. I really don't.
Yeah, that's right.
No.
Until the conferences come together and the schools come together and form their own, I don't know, coalition of the willing, there's going to be nothing to enforce it. The NCAA is not going to enforce it. So
until you start taking the butter for their bread in terms of their money, they're not going to change anything. Because you look at the price of tickets.
Right.
I mean, and I tell people this, they go, well, I'll stop going to games. Where are you still buying apparel? Because if you're buying apparel, the NCAA is getting kickback on that. Are you still watching the games?
Right.
The NCAA, that's the thing. It's money, money, money. And, I hate seeing things, for instance,
right.
Daquan Nichols against Syracuse. His career is over. His knees are blown because the NCAA is all about money. That's all they care. They don't care about a kid that gets injured. Hey, you made us money, we're good. Thankfully, Doc was going to get an education at a great university. Now, had he had been at, that school down the road and, Crapple Hell or Cheater Hole or, whatever you want to call it, he wouldn't get one. At least he does have a chance. But it's nothing but money. It doesn't matter that a kid gets hurt and he's out. He can't play again for life. The NCAA is all about money to them. Oh, well, he's just another, casualty. Push him off. Let's go make some more money. And it just frustrates me.
Yeah. Outside of the NCAA, how could you be a high school kid in the state of North Carolina playing football and want to go to Carolina over some of those schools? I mean, you go on a visit there and you see the stadium half empty. Like, how I don't understand how guys. I'll pick on Peyton Wilson, the linebacker recruit that's come into Carolina that everybody's still trying to poach. Like, how does that kid go to a Carolina game, then go to the Thursday night Louisville game, and even how does it even compare to what
you said earlier? It's the brand thing. When you think about it, 95% of state fans are state fans because either they went to school there or a very close family member went to school there. 95% of your Carolina fans are fans because the $1.58 shirt was on clearance at Walmart and Michael Jordan played there 127 years ago. Because we all know the ceiling is the roof. So, it's a brand thing, and that's hard to overcome. But it shows when you think about it. You think about it for a second. Their football team, they're soft as Charmin toilet paper. Because the majority of the kids that want to go play sports there go because of Michael Jordan. Well, basketball and football are two different sports. I'm sure they can't figure that out, but it is. So you have that brand. You have to overcome that brand. And really, I don't think you'll ever see a situation where that's not the case, because they've built that fraudulent brand for so long. But I have heard it said more than once, especially with the state staff, they want a kid that wants to come to state to play football, not to watch a basketball or baseball or a track or whatever. They want kids that want to be there. It is tough to overcome that brand, but winning will certainly help. Me personally, I'd rather play for a coach like Coach Dorn than, how can I say this nicely where you don't have to use the bleep button? The hell with it. I'd rather play for Dorn than an asshat like Fedora. I mean, but that's me. I grew up a state guy, which means I actually am smart. But it's the brand thing, man, and it's hard for school. I mean, you look at it. You've got state trying to overcome it, and then it even comes down to Clemson trying to overcome it, South Carolina trying to overcome it. Dude, wait, it's a brand thing. And it's tough to break that because it's ingrained in these kids' mind at birth. Carolina, Carolina, Carolina. I wish any kid, if they truly want to go to Carolina, I hope they do. But if you want an education and, have something to be proud of, just, get in your car and drive to Raleigh and get that. But it is tough. But we're winning more of those battles now than we used to.
All right, so speaking of, you teed me up perfectly for the transition there. You mentioned playing Coach Dorn and his staff halfway through the year. How's your view of Coach Dorn and the staff changed at all? Good, bad, indifferent?
Yeah, I'm a lot more disappointed with them
thoughts?
at this point than I was at the beginning of the season. Yeah, that's a joke. No, when you think about it, I can take this all the way back. We talked a couple of years ago, and off camera, I told you, we talked about it. That 2014 class was going to be huge, because you think about it, that class got thrown in the fire right to begin with. Well, look what's happening this year. You've got them guys as seniors. And I believe I tweeted at you. You asked me who was in that class. You just look at the names of the guys that are in that class. So what it shows to me is this year has been the year. Now, the talent is there. The question was it going to get put together? I personally think that, Coach Dorn's done an amazing job. And what people don't look at a lot is filling staff positions. We lost Coach White last year. We lost Coach McNutt early on. We lost Coach Nielsen last year. But look who Coach Dorn replaced Coach McNutt with. He replaced him with Coach Barlow. That was huge. Then you got Coach Canada leaving. You replaced him with Drinkwitz. And Coach, you left. You replaced him with Lefford. The replacement of coaches has been great. So what you have is you have a good coaching staff that started off the season. We should have won that game. Let's call it what it is. But as the season's gone on, you can see a team with this staff. Let's face it. We lost that Pittsburgh game last year. Nothing worked for us in the first half.
Yep.
We would have lost that game. That shows you what this staff has done over the time they've been there. They've built something. The players have bought in, and now you have this season going out, and you look at it and you say, so this is what it's supposed to look like. I think the staff's great. I think they get along great. Anybody that knows me knows I am very biased to Dez. Coach Kitchens, I'm biased to him. Just because he never smiles, but he always has that grin on his face like, I've got you. And the kids love him. But it's almost like from what I see and what I hear and what I'm told, the kids love the coaches. That helps. And it's shown this year. You take game one, they lose to South Carolina. And let's face it, they came back and struggled against Doc and Marshall. But they stayed the course. They kept believing. Coach Dorn if he ever gets out of that red T-shirt, I will never support him again. He wears the red T-shirt forever, and Tuffy stays on the helmet. But I don't care. We'll warm him up with a win.
He's gonna be cold as hell this weekend.
But the staff as a whole, you're going to have staff turnover. Let's face it. They keep having this year like they're having now. You're going to have staff turnover. But what Coach Dorn has proven to me personally, I don't know if anybody else, but for me, he's proven that he can lose a coach and replace them with a better one. And I think that's huge. But,
yeah,
we're halfway through the season. 7 games in? Okay, well, we've still got another 5 games to go. We should have another, 8 games to go. But,
yeah. You mentioned that Marshall game. And quick side note, Marshall still
absolutely,
their only loss is to NC State. They're 6-1 right now.
I love it.
I mean, Doc Holly's a hell of a coach. So
yeah,
we struggled that game. They won.
And you look at it.
Team.
You take that game. It's proven, like you said, they're a good team, and we won. We came out the next week and we blew the doors off of them. And then we get to the Syracuse game. We dominated the first half of that game. And then we kind of forgot what we were doing in the second half. In years past, it's just like the Pittsburgh game. We lose that game. The turning point, in my opinion, for this season was going down to Florida State and winning that game. Because I think at that point, the players in the locker room looked around and said, okay, we're starting to see what we're being told. And that's huge.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it's the mentality change that game.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it's the mentality change that comes along with that game. And yeah, despite how good or not good they are this year, I think that going down there and winning for a program like us,
and you think about last
can't
year,
be understated how important that was.
This team last year could have been a 10-win team.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have, because they shouldn't have lost to East Carolina. They had Florida State and Clemson beat. I mean, the only game that we lost it wasn't even close, was Louisville, when we come back and redeemed ourselves this year. This has been, people haven't seen it, but this has been building for about 2 years.
Yeah.
This season has been coming, and it's hard for us State fans to be patient, because, well, heck, we ain't won nothing since Jesus walked on water. And it's tough for us, but you have to give it time. You do. You just have to. And I think Coach Doran, I'll be honest with you, if you want to talk about recruiting, this class he's got coming in this year reminds me a lot of that foundation class in 14. It really does. I will tell you for a fact that, in my opinion, Ricky Pearson is the best running back in the country.
He's good, man.
I mean, and
he's good, man.
There's going to be a lot more good news coming for NC State on the recruiting trail. You just got to wait, because you got to understand we've got 18 or 19 commitments right now. We're not going after but about another 5 kids. So it'll be good. We'll be fine. Just stay patient.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's what you've been saying.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's what you've been saying since we very first talked to you. But it's like, everybody relax. It's going the right direction.
As the relax guy, and now I'm known as the treated the NCAA guy. I don't know how this happened. I'm evolving.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, just be patient. It's coming.
All right. Well, moving on to this weekend. How are you feeling about the Notre Dame game? Are you going to the game
Thursday
what's your
morning?
Thoughts?
We're going to go up, and we'll be there Thursday afternoon. We're going to take the party bus to the game on Saturday. Look, if you like old school smash mouth football, watch this game, because I believe, and I could be wrong, and you can correct me on this if I am, but I read something either this morning or last night that you've got the 6th best rushing offense against the 6th best rushing defense. So you've got strength on strength. Yeah. Now, I did see a stat where the two teams that Notre Dame has played this year that were top 20 or something in rushing defense, they only averaged about 3 yards a carry. The other teams that were 85 or worse, they averaged like 7 yards or 8 yards a carry. But I'm going to be honest with you, Saturday's going to be a game where, you know, Chubb, Hill, Jones, Street, Roseburg, Fernandez, and Moore, it's on them. Because Notre Dame's going to try to run it down your throat. That's what they do. So the question is, will we stop that? I feel good about the game, to be honest with you. I feel like this team's coming off a bye week. They know what they're capable of. They know how they can play. And I think they've still got a chip on their shoulder. Even though we're 6-1, we beat Louisville, we beat Florida State. I think the chip is still on their shoulder, and I think that goes back to the head coach.
One thing I want to ask you about that.
One thing I want to ask you about that is
Roseboro.
Say Darian's last name again.
What'd I say?
I love it. All right, man. Well, I'm just picking on you. Hey, I appreciate your time today. Anything else you want to talk about? Anything you want to get out to the people?
Carolina. Get that out of the way right to begin with. But honestly, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, anybody out there listening to this, follow these guys, man. They're awesome. They're awesome. They love NC State, and man, follow their personal accounts. Dustin's personal account's about the most entertaining thing on Twitter. You don't know what's coming out of his mouth. One day he's took a breathalyzer test in the morning and he's still drunk. Yeah,
he's
you
fantastic.
Don't know what's coming out of his mouth. It's classic. I read his stuff and I'm just sitting here about to die. But you know, guys, seriously, support these guys. They're independent. They're not associated with the big business. You know, give them a chance. Listen to them. Support them. I do want to give a shout out because, well, he might not like this, but James Henderson has started up his own thing on Inside Pack Sports, and
absolutely,
it is awesome. I mean, it is so different from the run of the mill mess that these other places are doing. You don't have all the drama and mess on there, so it's really a good site. Y'all might want to look into that. Other than that, go Pack always, every day, 24/7, and relax, people. But never forget, at NC State you get a degree. At that other school, well, you know what you get. You get the ceiling being the roof. Y'all be good.
Well, I appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I couldn't say it any better myself.
Go Pack all day.
All right, go Pack.